pierces, which is a lot
That
of
is a lot of
spell
spell
pierces.
pierces.
It makes your opponent very hard to play a game. It makes it very hard for your opponent to play a game.
Chris Van Meter's deck, this is the Naya deck, has in terms of notables, because remember, it does have 8 tutor cards.
Angel.
It has 4 Stoneforge Mystics and 4 Fauna Shamans. So 1 Sunblast Angel, which is totally monstrous. 2 Sword of Feast and Famines. 2 Cunning Spark Mage. A Basilisk Collar, a Hero of Oxid Ridge, an Inferno Titan, a Sylvan Ranger when you need the mana, a Precursor Golem, and he's got main deck 3 Acidic Slimes.
I like that a lot.
That's really great right now. In this room where there's going to be a lot of Swords of Feast and Famine walking around, Acidic Slime seems great. It comes down, kills the sword, and then it's got a 2/2 Death Touch.
Magic players in $10 draft.
The creatures
_4.
can't even pick the sword anymore. It's all slimy.
$10 draft number
Off
4.
the battlefields.
Please report
This thing out of here.
to
It's
the
disgusting.
Sacher.
I want to play with this.
Again, $10 draft number 4.
Now these spell pierces are pretty bad in this matchup. One of the strengths of this type of deck, though, is he plays Chase the Mind Sculptor. So like, you can have a few dead cards in your deck and just shuffle them away. That's one of the things we see a lot in Legacies. You see people playing these cards that are very high power in certain matchups, but are not great in other matchups. And people's plan is, well, if I draw them, I can just Jace them or brainstorm them away. And we're off. Chris leads with a Copperline Gorge into a Birds of Paradise. AJ plays Celestial Colonnade and passes it back to Chris. Chris plays an Arid Mesa. That's going to put him to 19, popping that. He's probably going to grab Plains here. Let's see what he has to offer. Fauna Shaman comes down. AJ plays a land and journeys the Fauna Shaman out of play.
That's really exciting. That's a really important moment. One of the things you were talking about with Jace as a powerful thing for AJ to be able to do, Jace is less strong against Vengevine decks, just in general.
And that journey...
That journey's pretty huge.
Is really huge, and it's not something you expect out of the blue-white Caw-Blade deck either. When you pass the turn with that Fauna Shaman and your opponent is, one land in play, there's no way you don't think your Fauna Shaman's living.
Ryan Ruiz, please report to the main event stage for your draft. That's Ryan
AJ,
Ruiz.
very
Please
patient,
report to the
strong
main
player,
event stage
plays his
for
sword
your
and passes.
booster draft.
You realize, my opponent's applying pressure with green stuff. I am going to play this sword. Next turn I can play a 2-drop. I can equip the sword. And that becomes the plan.
Now, if an Acidic Slime were to hit the table, would you kill the journey or would you kill the sword?
I think you have to kill the sword at this point.
I would actually kill the other way around. I might kill the journey and then get another Acidic Slime. The Faunic Shaman coming free means you can definitely go there for the second slime.
And, I mean, that's true.
But obviously, though, if you do that, that does open you up for the 2-mana leak and the Deprive.
This is a final call for Ryan Ruiz for your booster draft.
You have this small opening where you get to do something through counter magic, and taking your opponent away from access to, protection from green. It's a pretty big thing. Now Chris just plays a Basilisk Collar and equips his Vengevine.
That actually says a lot.
It says
pretty
my hand
depressing.
is not very good.
We
He can probably assume that...
he can pretty much cast anything in his deck that isn't called Sunblast Angel.
Yeah, he may also just be setting up a turn. Like, you never know. Chris's hand may have Cunning Spark Mage in it, and playing the Basilisk Collar and equipping there, that's something that says to AJ, you can tap out. Don't worry.
Yeah, that's true.
It lulls them into a sense of security.
That could be
and
a next-level play.
Chris may be making a very strong play by slow rolling a Cunning Spark Mage.
Yeah.
And, I think Chris is a very good player, so that's definitely a play we might see here. Now, AJ's got the signature full grip of the Caw-Blade deck. And those are some nice sleeves AJ has. I wonder where he got those. These sleeves say, "Don't daze me, bro." The blue blacking. I believe you can find those on StarCityGames.com. If you so desire to have some sweet new sleeves. I don't know if you've seen the other color combinations. Now, AJ has a Squadron Hawk, which now has protection from green and is a 3/3. It makes it pretty rough for his opponent to swing into. But Chris did slow roll the Cunning Spark Mage. He's going to get to take that Squadron Hawk out. And, that's pretty strong, especially game 1. AJ's deck's going to be pretty hard-pressed to beat a Cunning Spark Mage equipped with a Collar in game 1 here.
Absolutely. I mean, he does have access, obviously, to another Journey to Nowhere. He's got 3 Day of Judgment. He has a Gideon. I mean,
time is of the essence.
He's got answers.
11.
But yeah, his life total is actually, it's 7.
Oh, yes. So, it's really rough. The day, he could just be, under dire straits from Vengevine attacks the next turn.
Yeah.
Especially since his opponent has a card like Hero of Oxidage in his deck. His opponent has a lot of haste creatures, which make it really hard to play a card like Day when your life total gets really low. At this stage in the game when you don't have this much mana anyway.
5 mana. Is that a Tumble Magnet?
It is a Tumble Magnet. Tumble Magnet, surprisingly bad in this spot. It does not deal with the Spark Mage the way you want it to.
But it's
it
not
buys
terrible.
a lot
it
of
buys
time
him
against
some
that
time.
Vengevine.
I mean,
yeah.
As long as another haste creature doesn't come down, that's going to buy him a lot of time.
It's true. Even when Tumble Magnet's bad, it's good.
Now, what I'm wondering about was the Basilisk Collar play. Was that setting up, a opportunity to kind of fake out the opponent, or was it, and by meaning that does he have some gas left in his hand, or was that all he's got left?
Ooh, he just played a Squadron Hawk, and
wow,
that's really, really good for him.
That was huge. Now, just having the opponent have that low of life, and then having the ability to sandbag some creatures for the, to come back with after things might go poorly. Yeah. That means that he can have those Vengevines that he has there, that Vengevine pretty much be resurrectable at will.
Yes. Now, what I was going to say was, before Chris had drawn that Squadron Hawk, AJ had a few plans of attack where he could actually destroy the Copperline Gorge and then upkeep tap the bird and keep his opponent off green mana, or on his turn Day, and his opponent wouldn't have green, which makes it very hard to double creature without Squadron Hawk.
Okay, it's a second Hawk in play.
So Chris plays second Squadron Hawk.
Those are both just under the Open Series banner, as you can see.
AJ's thinking about whether or not he's going to counter this second Squadron Hawk here. His life total may dictate that he has to. So unfortunately, he could not have Mana Leak the first one because his opponent would have just paid for the Mana Leak.
When you have to throw away a Mana Leak like that, and by throw away I mean, use it to take out a small portion of a card, you're not happy, but at least it's doing something. You're just trying to stop the bleeding.
You're really just trying to get back into the game.
Yeah, I mean, he has gone from 2 damage a turn hitting him to 3 damage a turn hitting him to 2 damage a turn, which gives him the opportunity to have another full turn of life. And that's just, of course, if we stay with the status quo with the game state. Okay. So for those of you who are just joining us, this is Game 1 of the matchup between AJ Sacher playing Blue-White Cawblade versus Chris Van Meter playing Naya. I'm Adrian Sullivan.
And I'm Jacob Van Lunen. And we're about to see what AJ's got here to deal with this. He's at 7, pretty low life total. Scary place to be in this spot.
Second Tumble Magnet, maybe?
Seems reasonable.
Second Tumbler. Now, one of my questions is, by playing that Tumble Magnet, right, it could mean very much so that what's going on is that AJ is just, killing some time for a bigger play.
Oh, yeah. Now, AJ goes down to 6. Chris pings him with Spark Mage on his end step. And this is a really rough spot. I mean, AJ really needs a day off the top of his deck, something like that.
Yeah. It's funny because with those tumble magnets, if he were to be able to, like, you know, reach over into Chris's deck and draw Chris's Sunblast Angel, that wouldn't be bad.
Sunblast Angel is a surprisingly powerful card. We had a 16-hour drive down to Atlanta after picking up my friend from Penn State, and we went to the Grand Prix there. And over the course of that drive, Sunblast Angel ended up in the sideboard of my friend's extended Naya deck. So, a lot of applications.
For those of you who have been paying attention to the Open Series thus far this season, you'll note that AJ is now a straight blue-white deck, whereas previous incarnations of this list have been blue-white with red for AJ.
And AJ went back to the blue-white version. This is something I've seen a lot of my friends doing, friends who play in local tournaments and things like that. I think Edgar Floor is the person who really made this happen. He stuck with the blue-white version. He never ever loses with it. He just top 8s every tournament he plays with the deck, and he's just playing the deck differently than other people. And as more people start watching him play, and people start actually recognizing, wow, this kid's really good, people are saying to themselves, oh, he plays the deck that way, maybe I should try playing the deck that way. And they try it, and it's pretty good. And Gideon is the answer that AJ needed here.
Gideon particularly backed up by Tumble Magnets just to give it a little bit of insurance. Now, Cunning Spark Mage doesn't care about Gideon if it doesn't want to.
Oh, well, it does, because it has to attack next turn, so it's going to have to just tap and shoot AJ for damage.
No, it's not going to have to attack. Because he can just poke
Well,
AJ
yeah, he
again.
has to shoot AJ instead of attacking, and then it's tapped, and then AJ can kill it with the Gideon.
There we go. Yeah, there we go.
That's what I meant.
Okay.
Well, he has to tap it on his turn. He can't
Right.
leave it up. So next turn, AJ's getting an active sword again.
For life.
Suddenly things are fine for AJ. 4 life that's fine.
Now, in terms of closing out the game, Chris Van Meter has Vengevines. He's got one more Cunning Spark Mage in his deck. He's got a Hero of Oxid Ridge in his deck. He's got Inferno Titan. Other than that, basically...
Good amount of stuff.
but the thing is that's 2 cards, 3 cards, and 3 more Vengevines. So he has 6 cards left in his deck that are going to be potentially effective at stopping the Gideon from dominating the table.
It's true. Precursor Golem would be quite good here, too.
And everybody attacks the Gideon. Looks like Gideon is actually down to like a 1. What, I'm not sure. Maybe I'm misreading that. What does that say? He got poked in the face by the Cunning Spark Mage. It can't be that low. It's probably down to a 6. I see 2...
yeah, I believe it's down to a 6.
2 claws?
Yeah, 2 claws attack.
Okay, so good. That's a 6 then for that Gideon. And there's another... It's funny how we've sort of started calling them caws now.
Yes. Birds.
I think this is a perfect example of Brian Kibler proving Patrick Chapin wrong about something. Patrick Chapin said that deck names don't have any real value anymore, and then Brian Kibler makes a deck and is like, this is Caw Go. And when you hear the name Caw Go, you think Draw Go, and you get a whole sense of what the deck does. And it's useful, right? And now here we are unconsciously calling the Squadron Hawks Caws, you know?
Now, AJ had the day. AJ set that up beautifully, and now this game looks like it's solidly
it looks
in AJ's
wrapped.
grasp.
I mean, he's even got a Tumble Magnet back.
And if he can just keep, having a Gideon on the table when your opponent doesn't have a board presence, like the Vengevines aren't even powerful.
Yeah, and those
the Tumble Magnets will just turn it off.
Exactly.
Soon he's going to be able to move the sword for D. It's just really, really bad for Chris.
If he gets to untap without, Chris needs to get something really good happening now. It's Acidic Slime?
Yes.
What is it chopping down?
Journey to Nowhere.
Ah, and that brings back the Fauna Shaman.
Gets back a Fauna Shaman. I believe he has another Bird of Paradise in his hand, so he's going to be able to tutor up whatever it is that he needs.
Could be an
in
Inferno
this spot.
Titan.
It could be.
Okay. So, what is your plan here, then, if you were AJ? His opponent is at effectively a high enough life total that the end game isn't important. What's important right now is getting to the end game. So how do we get there?
I think you play a hawk, you equip a sword, you give your Gideon +2, and you pass.
I was thinking...
AJ's going to go ahead and play the hawk. Play another hawk.
I was thinking make the Gideon a man and equip it. Here he comes. Can't be blocked.
No, then you get to untap, and then you get to equip to the sword anyway. Yep.
Take 8. And this is what we were talking about before, about the ability of the Caw-Blade decks to close out games. I mean, he was in a position where his opponent was at a
26.
fairly ridiculous level of life, right? And now he's actually at the position where he's started to close things down. You know, like, his opponent is now below 20, and he is threatening the potential to throw down, what is it, 6, 9, 10, 11, 2 turns. Have the game be done.
And tech edging that land, again.
Huge.
See, he's tech edged 2 of Chris's lands, and this makes Chris's Fauna Shaman significantly worse. And normally you're this control deck, and you're playing against this deck with creatures. Like, it's not like Wasteland is the thing you seem like you want to be doing, but as people are starting to realize, the Caw-Blade deck has a significantly lower converted mana cost than, like, on average, than basically every other deck in the format, except for a red deck. And as a result, your tech edges have a lot of value. And if you use them aggressively, like, you're going to make the game very difficult for your opponent.
So one of the things that can happen here for Chris, he's been knocked down in mana, so the Inferno Titan plan actually doesn't make sense anymore. What he can do is he can search up the second Cunning Spark Mage, put that Spark Mage into play. He does not want to activate it right away because of that Gideon. And then he will be able to really be putting AJ in a pretty perilous position still.
Yeah, it's true.
Now remember, Gideon, when it has activated and become a man, Gideon cannot take damage. So it is immune to Cunning Spark Mage Basilisk Collar.
He's looking through his deck. I believe Cunning Spark Mage is the only card he can get here that really puts him in any sort of good position. Now, the big problem with Cunning Spark Mage here, though, is that now he doesn't have the mana to play that Spark Mage and equip the collar. So that Spark Mage is going to be in play for a single turn where it gets to, collar up, and next turn AJ is just going to get to +2 as Gideon again. Right now, that
and the tumble magnets also mean that because the Gideon is sufficiently high, he can actually just kill the Spark Mage right away. It uses up a
hawk.
I was going to say it uses up a magnet to do so. I believe both magnets are at 1 token.
Oh,
or
why
1 counter.
is it 2?
I think he used it.
Oh, did he?
I'm not 100% sure. It's hard to see. I can't quite make out those numbers on those magnets at the bottom of the screen. The 2 magnets are both down below the logo for the Open Series.
Let's see what happens here.
Okay, so there are 2 counters on the second magnet.
Now, just attacking with this hawk here is so important. Putting your opponent at 0 cards. It makes the Vengevines, like in the graveyard, no longer a threat. It makes the game significantly more difficult to lose for this point.
Absolutely.
His plan right now is he's got to think, okay, well, I just need to kill a Spark Mage, and I need to... So this turn, he may just main phase tap Spark Mage, realize, well, I should have done that end step, but no biggie. Then put his opponent on...
And look at this board position, like, just 2-3 turns ago, AJ was almost dead, and now he's threatening just to take it all away.
Just to end it. He's swinging all out. I don't need blockers. I have Gideon.
It's all in the air. And he goes to the creature. Just
eats it, goes to 10. And pitches his last card, which I believe was a bird.
No, those don't untap.
That'd be pretty good.
Tries to untap the cause, maybe as a joke. It was either as a reflex or as a joke.
Yeah. You feel like you're time walking when you hit them with the sword.
Yeah.
Now, he's thinking about whether or not he wants to just deal with the Spark Mage right now.
Or deal with the Fauna
Shaman
Shaman
right now.
He doesn't know how many Spark Mages his opponent has.
That's true.
You know, if his opponent got a second Spark Mage, that would be devastating. Not even devastating. Let me take that back. That would be good.
I'm interested to see. AJ really has to tap this acidic slime here with the Telemagnet.
I was gonna say, there we go.
Chris just packs it in.
God, what a turnaround. In terms of sideboarding here, Chris has the ability to bring in Cunning Spark Mages. Gideon, he can bring in Gideon as a means to fight Gideon. Thrun the Last Troll seems good. Acidic Slime seems good. He's got a lot of
Manic
weapons
Vandal.
here. Manic Vandal, another Collar, which I think is good with his Spark Mages.
Spark Mage.
Linvala, do you like Linvala as a means to shut down Stoneforge Mystic? I think it might be too narrow.
I'm not sure if it's good in this matchup. It's actually fine here because like swords on Hawks, it blocks those all day. Like the fact that it's a 3/4 flyer that's white, it dodges all the sword pro colors. So
What do you think
it may get brought in.
What do you think of Arc Trail versus Blue-White Clawblade?
I've always liked Arc Trail. I think it's really good, especially if you're applying pressure, which his deck certainly does. So I wouldn't be surprised if we brought those in. Over here from AJ, see a Mortar Pod. He's almost certainly going to bring that in as something to go get with his Stoneforge Mystic. It's an excellent answer to the Cunning Spark Mages.
Yep.
AJ also has a Sun Titan, which seems like could be pretty good here.
I think importantly, he's got 2 Ousts and 2 Condemns.
Oust
is great against Fauna Shaman, and Condemn is great against Vengeful.
Yep.
You know.
And when you're bringing in cards like Oust and Condemn, you're making your Jaces a lot more powerful too.
Yeah.
That's another thing that a lot of people don't necessarily know about Jace is that the more 1 and 2 mana spells you play in your deck, the better Jace the Mind Sculptor is. Like when you have this like endless stream of cards, just these 1 mana spells that make it very hard for your opponent to do things. Cards like Condemn that protect it. Cards like Oust that protect it.
Yeah.
Like they make things very rough for your opponent.
Now, I think he's definitely bringing in the Sun Titan because he's already been shown by his opponent that his opponent is able to tear apart like the sword. Having a sword in play is really good.
Especially Feast and Famine. Like such a big portion of Chris's deck is green, and such a big like portion of his plan is to rely on the Vengevines. That Chris also has to play this weird game where he wants to set up the Vengevines, but if he does set up the Vengevines into AJ, like slow rolling a sword or like grabbing a sword in the mid game,
Right.
like then that plan instantly becomes very bad.
So, what do you think he sideboards here? I'm out. AJ has 7 cards, I think, that come out. All of his counter spells, 3 Spell Pierce, 2 Mana Leak, 1 Deprive. I think
all of those
should
come
all
out.
go
They
away.
hit the chopping
And I think that the Sylvok Lifestaff doesn't do the work it needs to do.
I agree.
So that's 7 cards that can go out. And
I think he wants to bring in an extra sort of Feast and
right,
Famine.
I agree with that. That's 1.
Yep.
1 Sun Titan. That's 2.
Yep, Mortar Pod.
Mortar Pot is 3.
And then Condemns and Ousts.
Condemns, Ousts. That's your 7. Now, it's possible that he might be eyeing up the Flash Freeze. I don't think that that's a useful card overall because, again, I don't think you want to be reactive. Yes, you can counterspell a Cunning Spark Mage. Yes, you can. But
I mean, you're playing against... Naya's still a white deck.
Yeah.
Like, most of the decks in this format are white decks.
Yeah. I mean,
and
you're
white
not
decks
gonna-
white decks play Stoneforge Mystic, and white decks play Squadron Hawk.
You're not
and
going to
those are
be
the cards you care about most.
You're not going to be countering Vengevine in any useful way. If you counter the Fauna Shaman, that's more like, really lucky times. So yeah, I don't think that that's appropriate for those to come in. The core Firewalkers, similarly, this is not a traditional Naya deck where it has the red creatures. You don't see any 5/4s here. That's not necessary. I might imagine it's possible that the 1 Divine Offering might come in.
Yeah, I mean, he knows his opponent's going to be trying to grab, like, some type of equipment.
Yeah.
Collar, sword, something like that. And if he brings in the Offering, it does make his deck better.
You know, I actually think that he will bring in the Divine Offering because his opponent is a Mystic deck. That means that there's a really good opportunity for him between Fauna Shaman for Mystic, straight up drawing Mystic, or straight up drawing Collars or Swords, for there to be in play an equipment. So,
yeah.
With that being said, I think that I would try to find room for that one Divine Offering. And I'm not sure what I might cut for it. Maybe I would cut one Jace, just because it's expensive.
I maybe bring it in. I don't know if I bring in the Divine Offering. I mean, it's certainly always, like, almost always having a target.
Right.
But just because something has a target doesn't necessarily mean it's...
But I think there's a lot of value in that target, right? If your
the
opponent...
life is also pretty relevant.
Exactly. The
right?
life is relevant, and if you kill a Basilisk Collar in response to a Cunning Spark Mage, you know, trying to kill a bigger creature, that could just destroy a game.
It could just completely destroy a game. Now, AJ's going to go down to 6 cards here.
Yeah.
AJ will be on the draw.
Right. From Chris's side, do we think that it's going to be Cunning Spark Mages? I think Gideon's come in. Acidic Slime, Manic Vandal, Sun Titan?
It's hard to cut cards from Chris's deck.
Well, what are the cards that are less exciting for him? Precursor Golem strikes me as a card he doesn't need. It's just a card that's useful.
I think Precursor's, in general, pretty good against the blue-white decks. It's a card you want. It's really hard to sideboard with this deck.
Yeah. Sunblast Angel seems like it's not necessarily great. Yeah, this... You basically, I feel like you end up shading things if you want to sideboard with this deck, which is often the case with these tutor decks.
Yeah, and as a result, his sideboard is mostly one-ups. The only cards he has more than one of are Arc Trail, Condemn, and Gideon Jura.
Right. So that we got the opening stages of the game starting. Looks like turn 2 has passed for AJ, and I'm seeing nothing being cast. I guess it's turn 1, pardon me. Fauna Shaman hits the board with a Bird of Paradise as a friend.
AJ plays, or has a Journey to Nowhere sitting in Oblivion, which will bring the Fauna Shaman to Oblivion with it.
This return to cards like Oust, like Journey to Nowhere, I think it's partly as a result of just how weak Condemn is against Clawblades.
I actually like Condemn against Clawblade.
Do you?
Yeah, I mean, it's like once they suit up something with a sword and like start turning it sideways, like Condemn eats for 1 mana. I think Condemn's very good in Jace decks.
I think one of the things I don't like about it is that yes, you're stopping the guy, and to be fair, Oust is not great against a Caw either. Well, look at that. He does have a Flash Freeze.
Ooh, so he did bring in the Flash Freezes. I'm interested to see what he takes out then.
I'm not sure if I like that. I mean, I guess he did see red and green spells, you know?
Now, being on the play and having a bird here is pretty huge.
3 o'clock, 2-headed giant challenge. That is a sealed deck.
And now we have Fauna Shaman, unsick, untapped, and ready.
8 packs of
and that's a haymaker.
And 4 Scars of Mirrodin to build
Summer's Mystic some Shaman equipment into play, and Fauna Shaman
will
maybe discard a Vengevine? That'd be pretty good.
At the end of those 4 rounds.
It might search up an Acidic Slime.
That also seems very useful.
Acidic Slime to hit the journey to get the Fauna Shaman
That
back.
event will be starting at 3 p.m.
That's presuming that there's access to a 5th mana. Wow, did he search nothing?
Yeah.
Wow.
Put a sword into play, and I guess he just doesn't have any creatures? Or he already has that creature.
That creature, like, does pretty well with the sword. I mean, if he's going to be getting rid of his first of his Caws, maybe he just keeps the Caw instead. You know, what are you going to search that might be doing you more work than that right now?
Yeah, I mean, there's not much you really want more than a bird right now.
And swords it up. And as we can see in his hand, it looks like Chris Van Meter did bring in Gideons.
Okay.
And to be fair, if you have access to white, Gideon is a great answer to Gideon.
Gideon is a great answer to Magic the Gathering.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
if you're playing against so many different opponents, red has become very popular. And like I was saying earlier, a red deck doesn't care too much about a Core Firewalker. It doesn't mean that Core Firewalker is not great, but a Gideon is scary as heck. And yes, I'm holding back a little bit there. Interestingly, even though he could cast and tutor for a Core Firewalker, Chris does not have any Core Firewalkers on the board at all. His plan against really aggressive decks like that appears to be Condemns and Dark Trails, backed up by Gideon, Linvala, and Baneslayer Angel. And Jace the Mind Sculptor makes its appearance.
I mean, that seems very reasonable.
Oh, absolutely reasonable.
Even Collar seems good in a deck like this because you've such a great blocking team that, you know, when you start turning guys sideways, you're really only worried about them going over the top.
Now, this position, Chris looks to be in really great shape.
Yeah, but at the same time, AJ is like kind of put his opponent through an awkward decision. Like, he has the Jace in play now, and if his opponent wants to kill that Jace, his opponent's going to have to attack the Jace with the Sorted Guy.
Yep.
And
Which
you know, he won't get the untap off the sword. He won't get the discard, but you kind of got to do it.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with sorting up
not let AJ
one of those
untap
guys,
with the Jace.
kill the Jace, and do 1 damage. I mean, honestly, if AJ spent 4 mana to gain 3 life and Brainstorm, I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm okay with losing the rest of his sword ability.
But he also did it to draw a card and to keep all your lands tapped.
Yeah, yeah. They both get to win.
Fair enough. So now AJ goes down to 19, bins his Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Now the question here is, do you drop that extra Caw into play? I would hold it back. And, you know, I'm not as good as Chris, maybe, or maybe I'm better. I don't know. I can't tell. Chris has been top 8 of a Star City Games event. I have not. But I don't know that extra 1 is very impressive right now.
Well, I mean, the thing that Chris has to be thinking about is, okay, well, my opponent already played a day. I have to fight into that card with my deck, so
well,
it's not too unreasonable. It's also fine.
It's not unreasonable. No, I don't think it's unreasonable.
When you're playing the blue-white deck, like, you kind of like slow roll your birds because you have so many ways to like abuse the shuffle mechanics and things like that. But when you're playing a Naya deck, the birds are birds. You know, you can discard them to your Fauna Shaman later on in the game, and you can use them to get your Vengevines back. But when it really comes down to it, they're things to put your equipment on. So you kind of just want to flood the table.
I guess I'm looking at it more as the bird also as an enabler for Vengevines. And I'm not sure that the extra bird... And the thing about it is Chris, clearly, he didn't snap, call, do it. He spent a moment thinking about it, you know?
Very true.
It's still it's an open question, really.
One thing that I do really like about Chris's play to play the Extra Hawk is that when you're in matchups like this, a lot of the time you just want to use all of your mana.
Yeah.
That's something a lot of people don't necessarily think about enough. Is that, like, when you have those 4 lands in play and you can do something that costs 3 mana or you can do 2 things that cost 2 mana, you're probably just going to want to do 2 things that cost 2 mana. Because you might draw a 1-drop or a 2-drop and you can play the 3-drop along with it. And just using your mana effectively every single turn is very important when you're playing these cards because you're not running out of cards.
So he attacks with all 3 of those Caws into a Celestial Colonnade. I have a feeling it's very possible that a Cunning Spark Mage will follow up here to kill that Colonnade.
To finish it off.
That works too. Get your opponent down so that you can necessarily have a huge Gideon at the table. Now you'll note...
landing a Gideon before AJ has one.
Yeah.
Also very big. Note AJ's awkward flash freeze.
Right now, I think that if I were AJ, the card I would want to see more than anything else is a Squadron Hawk. Just...
Yeah.
What to do with this turn? If he were to, I don't know, I don't see a Gideon, but if he had a Gideon in his hand, he would have to tap down to do that, which would mean his opponent could do a lot of work before equipping that sword, and then it'd be completely untapped to do more work afterwards.
It's true.
What do we got here? Journey. Oh, Caw. There we go.
And, I mean,
That is the
it's
card.
rough for AJ to get back in here, but if something's going to do it, I think that's the card he needs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, we have AJ searching up his set of Squadron Hawks, get the full squad in hand. He now also has a Condemn. That Condemn is going to be pretty good here. It might even get to fight with a Gideon.
Condemning a Gideon would be so exciting.
Oh, yeah.
And when you're playing against a deck without blue, I mean, when you know they can't answer it. There's a Tectonic Edge and a Celestial Colonnade hanging back?
Yep.
Okay.
So he has access to his Flash Freeze. He also has access to tech anything one of his opponent's lands if he needs to for some reason or another.
In Chris Van Meter's position here, he's got out 2 creatures, both Caws, a sword, and a Gideon. Where does he want this game to go? His opponent actually has a lot of life, and he knows that his opponent could have cast another Blade, or another Squadron Hawk, but didn't.
I'm interested to see AJ's block here.
Yep, chump and trade.
That seems fine.
And Gideon goes up to 10. Yep, go into it a little bit further. That is the 4th of the Hawks.
Now, the Gideon on 10 counters, it's really rough for AJ.
I mean, at this point, though, with the Condemn in his hand, if he casts his own Gideon, that will be good, you know.
Very true. And he also kind of just needs Chris to...
Yeah. I mean, with no Squadron Hawks left in Chris's hand, Condemn becomes really excellent against that Hawk.
You know, it's funny that Condemn is good here in this particular spot, even though it's normally just such a bad card against birds.
We just had a quick walk by and nod from Patrick Sullivan, who is railbirding it while he waits for the Clipper game.
Such mastery.
And we got Matt Sperling also doing the walk-on buys, taking some time off from laying down the law. Gideon becomes a creature, comes on in with 2 Hawks. Condemn will probably hit that Gideon. No, there's a Feast, though. The Feast is still worth hitting. There's the Celestial Colonnade for the Sword of Feast and Famine, and a Condemn for the Gideon.
The Hawk, right? Or
well, he's got the block for the Sword of Feast and Famine Hawk, and then he can just Condemn the Gideon. He's got mana open where he could even cast a Flash Freeze on Cunning Spark Mage if it exists to try to finish off that Celestial Colonnade.
Yeah, I mean, that's just
how devastating.
brutal.
That was just devastating.
And again, these cheap spells make it really difficult for opponents. Cards like Condemn seem really good to me right now.
Now, his opponent does have another Gideon which he can cast and use to murder that Colonnade.
Ooh.
So if he casts
well, you can't kill the Colonnade.
Yeah, it's still a creature.
Oh, it's creature.
Yeah. There we go. Does he want to murder the Colonnade? Murder it. Murder the Colonnade. Kill the Colonnade. Did he do it? Did he do it? No, he did not. And AJ just untaps quick as can be. Oh, there are 2 Colonnades back there, so if he were to murder the Colonnade, another Colonnade could just come back. I only saw the I only saw the 1 Colonnade.
Such an interesting game. You know, you can force things to happen.
Preordain.
AJ's probably just going
There's
to...
a Gideon of his own.
Oof.
Now, if he casts that Gideon, it knocks him down pretty far, which means the Sword of Feast and Famine, unless there's another Condemn, can go on that bird, and then...
They'll just start eating away at AJ.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really just take the game.
Tumbles. Ah, Squadron Hawk.
Hawks. More Hawks.
Hawk.
And I believe that's a pass there.
Feel pretty good about that. Sitting back with that Tectonic Edge.
Yeah, I'm surprised he hasn't tech edged that red land.
I know, only one red source right there.
Chris is sitting on an Inferno Titan right now. I mean, Chris could just draw an Iron Mace off the top of Inferno Titan AJ. It would not be good times for AJ.
Here it comes. A Caw is eaten up. Gideon goes to 10. And a Cunning Spark Mage, I think, will probably get Flash Frozen.
That would make sense to
I would
me.
Flash Freeze that.
Yeah.
Have you...
But maybe Chris would not.
Or maybe AJ might not?
Oh, yes.
Is that another... so he's got a Gideon in his own hand, correct?
He does
And
have a Gideon in
something?
his hand.
Stoneforge Mystic off the top? Yep, there's a Gideon and a Stoneforge Mystic.
Ooh, nice. So,
Gideon kills Gideon.
those are some good spells. I want to see a deck like Chris's do well. Sunblast Angel is always a blast to watch.
Right. And then Stoneforge Mystic for his own sort of probably Feast and Famine.
Would make sense. He may just
Ooh, what is that?
play...
Is that
a
an
Temple
oust?
Magnet?
Oh no, he's going to kill that land finally.
Huh.
And is that an oust? And it's an oust.
Ooh.
The only Caw in the deck. 2 cards down.
Chris can shuffle with it.
Yeah.
That'd be good if he has Halimar Depth.
Now next turn, AJ has 7 mana, so he can cast Stoneforge Mystic, search for Sword of Feast and Famine, cast it, and equip it on his own blade, on his own Caw.
Yeah, and I mean, then he gets to untap all of his lands. And
Yep.
at that point, it's pretty rough for his
Boom.
opponent. Because here he goes.
Here's
Sword. Equip sword to my birdie.
which conveniently is untapped.
Yes. I didn't attack yet. It's fine.
And here
then
it
he
comes.
gets to D up with a Sworded Mystic.
What is that going to kill? Is it going to kill the Inferno Titan? Because it's so far away. There it is. Inferno Titan goes away. And up comes all of the mana.
Here we are.
I think that one of the things that happens with a lot of people's testing when it comes to their results is they play against a Callblade opponent, and they're like, yeah, I do it pretty well. But when you have people that are really used to playing it and they're good at the deck, it really does become another monster.
Yeah, it's a completely different animal entirely. Like the ability to play the deck aggressively and play the deck in a controlling fashion and find a correct balance of the two is something that comes with like time and with effort. And
Now-
that's something not a lot of people put in.
Yeah. And, you know, one of the things that AJ has had 1, 2, 3, 4 top 8s in these Star City Games Opens. And one of them in Standard. So, I mean, he's had more success in Legacy, but he's not unpracticed, you know. Is that going to be 5 mana for a Colonnade, or what is that? Looks like a Colonnade to me.
I'm not sure.
There we go. In they
Seems
come.
reasonable. So, AJ bashes in. Chris decides he just needs to chump. He doesn't want to discard that last card of the sword, so it's also important not to give AJ the untap, because then AJ just like has the Celestial Colonnade as this unbelievable blocker.
So what did I miss?
So we're watching Chris Van Meter. He's fighting against AJ Sacher. Chris is playing a Naya deck, similar to Ryan O'Connor's list from last weekend. AJ is playing classic blue-white Cobblade, using his tech edges aggressively, like good men should. How did your last round go for you, Brian?
I was the winner. I defeated a rugby deck.
We're going to be starting your event right after we start.
Chris has an acidic slime for AJ's Sword of Feast and Famine, and that's a pretty big deal right now.
If you'd like to participate in 2HG,
AJ looked to have regained control of this game, but
we will be starting
an acidic slime for that sword really changes things here. Now AJ's basically playing off the top of his deck as far as I can tell. See planes in his hands. Just gonna just 2 planes. Just gonna activate this colonnade.
So this is game 2.
This is just game 2,
wow.
Yes. So the first game, AJ was down to a very low life total and came back. It was a very impressive comeback. Now he's got this colonnade here. He's definitely attacking with it. He can't even, he's just deciding whether or not he wants to get in with the Hawk. Now he's probably going to chump here with the Mystic when he passes.
It's pretty interesting. One of the things that, there's a lot of people who are building these Vengevine sort of Naya, green-white, whatnot decks in an attempt to combat the Cobblade decks. But one thing that as we're actually looking at the board right here, the green creatures aren't very good against the sword that sort of defines these decks.
Yes.
That Chris has, he has these creatures, they can't get in the way, they can't block, the creatures that are equipped by the sword. Thankfully, he was able to remove the sword, but, AJ has no such problem blocking with Squadron Hawk if Chris were to suit up his own creatures.
Yeah. And something that we saw Ryan do is Ryan had a combination of acidic slimes and 1 scrap melter to deal with the swords, and Chris just has slimes. He has 3 slimes, which seems interesting because I think such a high density of decks this weekend are just going to have swords. I think red decks are going to have swords. I think any deck that has more than 12 guys is going to be playing swords, in my opinion.
I find it pretty curious that the red artifact creature, removal creature of choice, is Scrap Melter rather than Manic Deck. I don't know if you took last week we were able to talk to Ryan O'Connor about that particular decision. But,
I was talking about that earlier.
I mean, that's a big mana jump, especially in a Fauna Shaman deck. The ability to activate Fauna Shaman, kill your sword at 3 mana versus 4 mana versus 5 mana versus 6 mana. All these things that involve acidic slime or whatnot.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big deal. Mana's at a premium.
That's the other thing, though. But just a 3 toughness is pretty good right now.
That's
the balance that we're fighting for.
It is 3. What's the break point for 3? For a 3/3?
Yeah.
Also, players in $10 draft.
Even against fringe decks like vampires.
Sure, that's definitely 3 toughness is very big there. But I mean, are you ever going to get a Scrap Melter against them? You have a bunch of Vengevines,
Yeah, I guess that's kind of your planning. You'd probably just beat them on Vengevines alone. So.
But anyway, so it's Chris's turn now, and he is debating how to give beatdowns.
Yeah, and things are looking pretty good for Chris now.
It looks like he just wants to. I don't know what his hand is. Are we able to get a peek there?
Ooh.
I see a Copperline Gorge.
I mean,
think that's a Copperline
he didn't even equip that sword, which is somewhat curious.
Well, it indicates he has some sort of use for his mana, or he wants to be able to play something that plays on Mana Leak. Although, interestingly...
Another slime taking out the journey.
How many colonies does AJ have? AJ only has he has 2 colonies. Okay, so that gets his engine potentially online. Gets another creature in play, which is a big deal.
Yeah. Now AJ drew a Jace, which is good. He gets 3 cards deeper to find that Day of Judgment that would really open this game up.
Doesn't look like he got there.
It does not. It does look like he found a Stoneforge Mystic, which could go and find another Sword of Feast and Famine, which I believe AJ has.
Well, I mean, at this point, he doesn't have the mana to cast Stoneforge and cast Sword and equip. So, I mean, he's at 6 life. He's really in a bit of a bind here. He needs to play defensively.
Yeah, he needs to start chumping basically.
Yeah.
But a Day of Judgment would just open this one up.
One thing that Matt Sperling, actually, he played Blue-White Cobblade deck in the same event that I first played the Effect deck in a couple weeks ago, and he had cut down on Day of Judgment. We saw it last week. Jerry Thompson completely cut Day of Judgment from his Esper version. And that's actually one thing that these sort of monster decks, the Vengevine, just flood the board decks, are able to take advantage of. People who are fighting over the one important creature, they're like, well, I have 5. What do you do about 5 creatures?
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see that sort of back and forth.
Now,
open players, that is time.
I mean, we may just see a game 3 very quickly here. AJ's going to get another opportunity to brainstorm here, and he just did shuffle with his...
I believe that was actually the time was called.
Oh, wow, time was called.
So I don't know if they have any sort of additional time, but...
That's going to be it. So we're going to have a draw.
So it looks like Chris is going to win this game, and... Oh.
And that's a draw.
Yeah, and then it's a draw.
I think Chris used Fauna Shaman and found a Hero of Oxyridge, and that meant
that just
closed it.
I need Devin Cooper, Colleen
So,
Nelson,
battle to a
Andrew
draw.
Zimmerman, and Augustus Edgar.
Now, this puts both of these players at 3-0-1.
Okay.
Both very much in contention at this point.